Well, hello and welcome to the Radical Dreamers. Yeah, we got some stuff to go through today. There's a lot of reading in this, just a heads up. It all began with a notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it while cleaning out the closet. This old notebook covered with mold was a diary that belonged to my grandfather who passed away years ago. It contained his distant memories. I wonder if you still remember how we first met and our many adventures. It all seemed like a dream. We ran like the wind during those warm summer days long ago. You were a piece of a star that fell from the sky. I can still relive the memories of those days long past. Just by closing my eyes like so and whispering your name into the desolate night. Kid. Kid. Classic. Kid. Hey, kid. Are you ready, kid? I know you're anxious, but stay on your toes. Yeah, likewise, mate. You mess up and I'm leaving you behind. Got that, Serge? Come on, Magil, let's go. That bastard Lynx is gonna get what he deserves. Say your prayers, not that it'll do you any good. Are we gonna go with Magil or Magil? I don't know. Whatever I go with when we start this whole thing. This is the intro, by the way. We're not even into the game yet. Well, welcome to the Radical Dreamers. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. This is like a little novel, essentially, and we're going to be jumping into it. It's not very long. I'm going to be doing my best on this one. Yeah, I tried to take us back. You can play this with a controller, or you can play this with keyboard. I've got a controller attached, and I'm going to be going with the name Serge. This is non-canonical, if I remember correctly, so don't use this for anything special. The old lady's tip-off was right on the money. The counterspell on the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kid's plain, unadorned braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of the Manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were 3 of us, Kid, Magil, and me. I guess it must have been 3 years already since I first met Kid. Back then, I was just a wandering musician, traveling wherever my feet would take me, and wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. It was in the Outlands, in a town called Rigoria, where we first ran across one another, and since then, she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures, and misadventures too. Ah, Kid. She was a thief. And not just any thief, just a few months shy of 17 and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, a joy to be around, and a dab hand at campsite cooking, or so she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold that you've heard about in stories, the ones who steal from the rich to give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't Kid style. She was short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money, and rarely did she care to listen to a single word anyone said to her. But she wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes. She had her moments anyway. I glanced over my shoulder to see a shadow hovering behind us, blending into the darkness like smoke. Magil. Also known as Magil the Shade, he was Kid's partner, but even after 3 years, I still hardly knew anything about him. All I knew that he was around 30 years old and not much of a talker, but he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kid had started working together way before I met her. He always covered the top half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it sometimes seemed like he was an interloper from another world. It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but Magil, he might as well as not have had one. And Kid didn't seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of man he was, what kind of life he'd lived before. Nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I guess you could say that life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will. Kid, who was heading up our little raiding party, suddenly stopped ahead. "Look lively, boys, we've got company." We glanced around warily as cold, cruel eyes emerged from the darkness. I heard a low growl. Dark shadows prowled through the night, surrounding us. A pack of wildcats! There must have been about 10 of them. A thrill of fear ran down my spine. Flustered, I pulled my knife from my belt. Kid calmly shifted into a fighting stance. "Watch yourselves, I don't reckon these buggers been treated for rabies." Wildcats snarled and growled as they slowly closed in on us, drawing the noose tighter and tighter. Their eyes glinted in the darkness like fireflies, and strings of eager spittle dripped wetly to the ground. Then one of them sent an almighty roar, soaring to the moon, and the hunt was on. Alright, so we immediately jump into battle here, and you want to choose one of these four. You have a limited amount of time here. You want to I attacked here in order to get this going. I slashed a nearby wildcat with my knife. Now I'm going to be going through a guide here in order to get the most points and take the least amount of damage. Which is hard to do here to explain this as this is going because it is timed. The beast tried to leap clear, but I was already too close. I felt the blade make contact and was rewarded with a screech of pain. Wildcat jumped away, this time managed to put some space between us. It looked like I hadn't cut it very deeply. I stood my ground, changing my grip on the knife, and waited for another chance to attack. "Serge, behind you!" Panicked by Kid's warning, I whirled wildly around and came face to face with a pair of eyes blazing with hellfire. "You want to attack again." The wildcat was coming right at me. By reflex, I ducked, its attack swiping through the air directly over my head. I felt its hot breath on my cheek as it flew by me. At the same time, I thrust my knife upward, plunging it into the beast's belly. With a horrible cry of agony, the wildcat crashed face first into the ground. But I lost my balance in the chaos and fell down in a heap as well. I rolled over and was only just able to stagger back to my feet before readying myself for the next opponent. I was breathing heavily. The handle of my knife was slick with sweat and I tightened my grip. With a kick like a bolt of lightning, Kid landed a clean hit on the flank of a nearby wildcat. It staggered before losing its footing, letting out a pathetic cry, but Kid had already moved in to finish it off. And then the roar of fire. A burning smell filled my nostrils, and next to me, a shrill screech pierced the air. Magil's fire spell engulfed the head of a nearby wildcat. It fled, darting off into the darkness like an arrow. I scanned the area. Only moments ago we had been surrounded, but now there wasn't a single wildcat left. Kid and Magil had either sent the rest off with their tails between their legs or had put paid to them once and for all. I've never heard that phrase before. "Ha, you're dreaming if you think a pack of flea-bitten mogies is gonna stop us, Lynx." Kid crossed her arms and flashed a triumphant grin. Meanwhile, I was panting heavily and it felt like my legs were about to give out from underneath me. I collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed by what I had just been through. Whew! I'd taken a few hits, but I was fine otherwise. A couple of scars to talk about later maybe, but nothing that would stop me carrying on. "Are you hurt?" Magil looked down at me, his face expressionless as ever. "No worries, Mage. He'll be alright," said Kid, barging in to get a better look at me. "He may be a whining sook, but it'll take more than a few scratches to kill this one." She was nothing if not sympathetic. But she was right. This was no time to be bemoaning my lot. We hadn't even reached the manor yet. I dabbed at my wounds with the tincture-soaked cloth and wrapped them with bandages, then looked up at the other two. You want to say we're just getting started. We're just getting started, I grinned back, putting on a brave face on things. That's what I like to hear, Kid cheerily announced from close quarters. But then her eyes turned cold like the cool glow of the moon in the night sky. It's gonna be a long night. I nodded, trying my hardest not to utterly lose myself in her pale blue eyes. All right, let's get the show back on the road. She turned away and marched off deeper into the trees without looking behind to see if me and Magil were following her. Magil, of course, was already right behind her, his unhurried gait making it seem as though nothing much had happened at all. I jumped back up to my feet to chase after them. I'd be in for even more trouble than I'd bargained for if I got separated from them. The dark forest inside the manor's perimeter seemed to go on forever, a labyrinth of trees and boulders. The manor itself loomed in the distance, glowering over the vast grounds, and hidden within was a veritable mountain of treasure just waiting for us. Lord Lynx was the noble who ruled the remote territory of Riddel. He was also Kid's mortal enemy. We were there that night to steal a certain jewel he kept locked away in his most closely guarded vault, the Frozen Flame. The Frozen Flame was veiled in mystery. It was said to be imbued with an uncanny energy and possessed of a beauty and clarity that made it a priceless treasure. Countless thieves had tried to steal it, and not one of them had come close to succeeding. Nor had any of them escaped the manor alive. And now it was our turn to try and sneak into this place of death. Led by a girl who had the ambition to make the impossible possible, a hunger for vengeance that drove her onward, and a desire for riches that could never be satisfied. As we pressed on through the tree-filled darkness, the shadows gave way at last, revealing the true extent of the vast mansion. Finally, say your prayers, Lynx, because we're coming for ya. Keeping to the overgrowth and the shadows of the trees, we made our way around the manor walls in search of a means of entry. Eventually, we came to a terrace overlooking the garden. There was no sign of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the manor was an uncanny stillness. This will lead us straight into the west wing. Just as well, we don't have any business in the rest of the manor tonight, said Magil, gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. All right then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to vault over the railing of the terrace. Stop, Magil hissed sharply. Remember what we're here for. Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focus on this above all else. Your vengeance is of secondary concern. Agreed? Glancing over her shoulder, Kid relied with a reluctant, yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drongo's block off, and neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. Ha ha ha. I guess Kid was gonna get her way whether we liked it or not. Let's go, boys, the night is young. She cleared the railing with a sprightly hop and vanished inside the manor. I glanced toward Magil and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead, and we were soon inside Lord Lynx's lair. The darkness swallowed us whole. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. We want to go down the left passage. We pressed on through the darkness, down corridors that turned and twisted, snake-like, this way and that. Everything around us was still and silent, and it felt strangely like we were being watched. It was as if countless eyes were staring. Hey, I wasn't done reading that! We continued creeping cautiously down the corridors. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat stalking its prey, while in the shadows, Magil followed, gliding swiftly and silently like a sinister breeze. We pressed on into the embrace of the Weaver of Fate. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs, and the path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onward. We want to go down these stairs here. Slowly, we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued into an atrium that resembled a sort of plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into the darkness. Okay, we want to go to the right here. We went down the stairs, then took the passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers? Was it coming from inside? Okay, so we want to go ahead and go inside. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Kid took a quick look around before commenting. It's Lynx's girls' room. A half-written letter on the desk and a teacup still warm suggested that the lady of the manor was still nearby, but it didn't seem that anyone was here now. We decided to search the room. Some charming flowers, a discarded cotton handkerchief, a small bottle of perfume. Nothing that meant much to me, nor anything that seemed particularly valuable. Kid seemed to have the same impression and scanned the room clearly, not expecting to find anything. The only item of note was a small antique box which bore a crest resembling a viper. I decided where to look next. We want to go ahead and open the chest of drawers. I slid open one of the finely veneered drawers. Frills, lace, and sequins greeted me in reds, pinks, yellows, and a host of other vivid colors. A bounty of beautiful silk garments overflowed from within. Dresses, eh? Give us a look. I had just been about to close the drawer again when Kid came up and started peering over my shoulder. She reached out a hand to touch one of them, though I sensed a certain hesitation. I've never worn anything this posh in me life. The gown she picked out was cut simply but beautifully and was decorated with a pale floral pattern on a white background. She held it up to her chest and took a gentle twirl around the room. She was as light on her feet as a woodland nymph. The fabric fluttered like flower petals, and she held the hem just so. In that brief moment, you could have almost have called her dainty. Ha, stupid thing. Not exactly me, eh? I wouldn't say that. I think it really suits you. Oh, shut your gob-arse kisser. Her face turned an angry red. Come on, we ain't got all night. The spell well and truly broken, she stomped out of the room. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. The path to the right led deeper into the darkness of the manor. Meanwhile, going left would take us to the atrium and another branch. Okay, we want to go to the right. We went down the dark passageway, eventually finding ourselves at a sturdy-looking, immaculately polished door. Kid sniffed at the air. Just as I thought, something stinks here. I reckon we found the beast's lair, lads. Alright, let's go ahead and go inside. Kid opened the door and slipped inside. It was Lynx's room, but he didn't seem to be around. The booger's gone and scampered because he heard I was coming. There was something deeply unpleasant about the room. There wasn't anything unusual about the furniture and fittings, not how they looked or how they were made, but taken as a whole, it all felt discordant. Was this a reflection of Lynx, a seemingly ordinary facade that hid a disturbing truth only some could see? Let's see what we can find. The desk drawers, the paintings on the wall, the vase on top of the side table, we left no stone unturned. There didn't seem to be anything suspicious. But as I scanned the room, something unusual caught my eye. There was a pedestal in one corner with a significant-looking scarlet cloth drawn over it. I slowly raised my hand toward it. "Be careful what you touch in here," warned Magil. I pulled my hand back timidly. But then the cloth flipped back with a flutter without me having laid a finger on it. "Did that thing just move by itself?" exclaimed Kid, her eyes wide open with surprise. Gripped by curiosity, we moved in to see what it had been hiding. It was a large antique mirror of elaborately decorated style I'd seen before. It wasn't the kind of thing that would normally seem out of place in an old manor like this, and yet... Wait, something ain't right, said Kid. Meanwhile, I was captivated by the gaze of the statue of Venus reflected in the mirror. Suddenly, the eyes of the statue shone with light. What is your desire? It spoke with a voice that was crystal clear, yet smoky and husky. The mirror, it's speaking, I stammered. Ah, whispering mirror, muttered Magil as if he'd seen them 1,000 times before. What's one of those? Kid gave Magil a quizzical glance. A magical mirror in which a spirit dwells. The spirit can freely move between its own and other mirrors and will share its wisdom with those who ask. Perhaps we should ask it something. I decided to ask it about something that had been on my mind for some time. In this case, let's ask about Kid. I don't know about Kid's past. Not if you want to leave this place alive, you bloody don't. Kid's face turned red with anger. Your wish is my command, responded the mirror, ignoring Kid, who had grabbed me by the collar and was complaining vociferously. The image in the mirror rippled, and the reflection of the statue shook. And then the mirror's surface grew dark. The blackness gave way to a scene in Rajoria. Shadowy figures appeared one by one. There was a young woman surrounded by several children. They were all dirty, their clothes ragged and worn, but they all laughed as they played together. And then the scene was drowned in flames, and a troop of armed men appeared. The men dragged the woman away, and the children vanished one by one into the inferno. The focus shifted to one of the children, a girl. She was standing with her back to the flames, her tears leaving tracks with the soot on her face as she howled at the night sky. The girl's right eye was narrow like a cat's. Stop it! Kid screamed. The image in the mirror grew faint. Kid stared at the ground, her hands balled into tight fists. The room was dominated by silence. Worried about her, I broke the silence. Kid, I'm sorry. I'm leaving. She spun on her heel and made for the door. Wait, I cried and sheepishly darted after her. The corridor stretched out beyond the door. We retraced our steps. Rattle. Kid stopped us. There's something there. I listened carefully. Rattle, rattle. A figure appeared in the darkness on the other side of the corridor. I believe this is one of the very many random battles that we can encounter. It's a skeleton, because of course it is. We readied ourselves for a fight. Now, I'm going to be doing the best that I can here in order to fight and fight well, though I do admit this is actually rather difficult to figure out. What was I going to do? You can run, you can assess the situation, or attack. I think the best thing we could probably do here is assess the situation. We squared off against the skeleton. It threw the sword it was carrying to the ground and took a step forward. And then it twisted its body into a strange pose. Wait, is it doing what I think it is? It proceeded to contort itself further, adopting a shape that could only be described as highly suggestive. For a moment, no one knew quite how to respond. What the bloody hell? What should we... Wait, Kid, look at Mage. Magil seemed completely bewitched. There was no way he was going to be of any use to us in this state. What were we going to do? Let's go ahead and attack. Come on then, I charged at the skeleton. I took advantage of the opening created when it raised its sword and kicked it as hard as I could in its lower spine. There was an almighty crack as the bone snapped and the skeleton fell in two. A split second later, Kid landed a massive blow on the top half. With its skull shattered, the skeleton immediately came to a halt. Huh, guess you can fight after all. We had defeated the skeleton. Yeah, so there's like a bunch of these random battles that we're going to come across too. I don't have a very good guide of all of the possible things that could happen, but just a heads up that they are random and they can happen. Kid turned her attention back to Magil. Can't believe this drongo, though. Thwack! She brought her fist down hard on his head. Maybe that'll wake you up. Now, if we're done here, let's get a bloody move on. What was I... Oh, ow. Phew, I'd taken a few knocks, but I was alright. A scrape or two wouldn't stop me. Maybe you ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. Eventually, we came to an ornate door on the left-hand side. It was Riddel's room, Lynx's daughter. Now, I'm going to press Y here so you can actually see the save menu. So you can actually save here, which is what I want to do. We're going to continue next time. I would actually suggest saving quite a bit because those random battles can actually end your run rather quickly if you get one that you fail at or, you know, that just generally doesn't go very well. You can also end the game there. I don't think there's any other buttons that are really important. This is the big one. So yeah, I'm going to save here. Next time we're going to continue. This is going to be a little longer because of how much reading there is. I hope to see you guys next time as I'll probably play like 20-minute episodes, 20 to 30-minute episodes, which will be good, I think, for this. So I will see you guys then.